Welcome to First and 15, fifth quarter. Guys, the biggest story this week was about running backs, and it was about the lack of contracts that running backs were getting. I think they get it, guys. Was the lack of contracts that running backs were getting. Specifically, Josh Jacobs. We all saw, Saquon's interview about him, essentially saying that he does give a damn about the Giants.
He didn't say that, but
no, he didn't say that.
He kind of said that.
They cropped.
He said I could say.
They cropped.
He said
the video
I could
out.
just say F this, F
yeah, but
that, F this.
that was his way of
he
saying
said I could say
that I don't care about my.
He said I got to think it. No, that was his way of saying, look, I got to think about this, strategically.
See, but I don't get it though. Okay, they're mad right now, right? Mm-hmm. What can the team do? They can't sign until extension anymore.
Yeah.
Between now and the beginning of the season, the team can't do anything to appease them. So they're just going to be angry?
That franchise tag is guaranteed, right? So even if they suffer an injury during training camp,
it's fully guaranteed.
It's fully guaranteed.
They have to sign it first. They haven't signed it.
I know what I'm saying. When they sign it, they're fully guaranteed. So, what's the point of delaying?
It's fully guaranteed. Every contract is fully guaranteed unless they cut you.
No, it's not.
No, that's not true at all.
What do you mean it's not fully
If you get hurt,
you still get paid when you get hurt.
But what I'm saying is what I'm saying is it's guaranteed for this year. It's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
So meaning if you get hurt in training camp, they can't cut you and say, we're not going to pay you this franchise tag.
The franchise tag is locked in.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So there's to me, you really just need to take a day to say, am I going to sign or not?
But still, you don't want to get hurt because that might affect the future opportunity for contract.
You not being in training camp, to me, puts you at more risk for being hurt.
Yeah, but their agent's not going to talk to them in that manner.
Yeah.
The agent's going to basically say, don't show up until you need to show up, preserve your body, reduce the risk of injury.
Honestly, if it's me, I would rather get hurt now and then come back next year and be like, ha!
But how you
y'all
come
gotta
back?
Pay me and I'm hurt. Then I just rehab and I'm good to go for next year.
They're not going to do that because then they're risk them not being able to get the type of contract they want next year. Mm. So here's the thing that stuck out to me that nobody's talking about, but it was interesting. It was 4 players last week when we talked about this that were having issues as far as getting or wanted the extension that we brought up. Mm-hmm. We brought up Pollard, Barkley, Jacobs, and Ingram.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Ingram got his deal.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Jacobs and Barkley did not, and they've been chirping and very upset about them not getting a deal.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Pollard also did not, and we have not heard one thing whatsoever from Pollard.
Because I want to say there's been reports that he just plans on showing up. I don't think
he signed his contract. He actually signed. Yeah. So it's not and Ingram signed too, I believe.
Plus, I feel like Pollard is in a different category where he's pretty much been the backup. These other guys have been starters.
So he was okay with that franchise money?
Yeah, because this is his prove-it year. He needs to prove that he can be starter and make starter worth of money. Okay. To me, this is the best. Tony Pollard getting franchised was probably the best thing that could have happened to him.
I think Tony Pollard
in this market, that was the best thing that could have happened.
So you don't think Tony Pollard would have been able to get paid a fair amount more on the open market?
Nope. Why? When all these players are available, why would you pay Tony Pollard, a guy you're not sure can really
So if that's the case, wouldn't you want to actually extend him now because his value is so low? Because you could probably get him for a cheap amount.
The market. This is one. I don't understand why everybody's so upset and running backs deserve. The market is the market.
Yeah, the market is the market.
The market is the market. Okay, yeah. You can't just say we gotta pay them because they did all this work. The market's the market.
Right.
It just sucks for them. And it is what it is. You see that. Literally, y'all are the ones drafting running backs in the 6th round now.
Yeah.
The whole fantasy community talking about but you're drafting them in the 6th round. You're drafting
so what do you think Pollard want? You think Pollard doesn't care about the contract?
I think Pollard I think Pollard is happy he got franchise tag because I don't know that anybody was giving him any type of $10 million deal. So he gets this and then potentially a deal after this. I think
let's
this
be
is
real.
A maximum.
You just said it. The market is the market. Next year, 1 year older.
Yep.
He's not going to get he's not going to get a ridiculous contract.
This is what I think between Pollard though is he hadn't had a lot of work on his he's not had a lot of carries, he's not had a lot of volume, not had a lot of touches. That is very different than a Josh Jacobs who's a year younger than him.
And he's also with the Cowboys too. So let's talk about off the field money as well. when you're with the Cowboys, it's a different cachet.
Yeah.
It's a different amount of endorsement that you get being a Cowboys
have we
player.
ever seen a Pollard commercial? Number one, the answer is no.
We don't have to see a
Number
Pollard
two,
commercial.
don't forget Pollard. And I don't even remember. I think he was like a 4th round pick. So up to this point, he's been getting like 4th round pick money, which is not much of anything at all. Jacobs has been clearing him money wise easily.
Yep.
Right.
Easily.
But what I'm saying
so
is,
now you're basically saying, okay, I haven't been making money up to this point. I'm going to sign this franchise deal where it's a good amount of money, but it's just 1 year. We know the market sucks. I still have a chance of getting hurt. I'm going to be a year older. Like, who's to say he's going to be able to get that money next year?
But he has no leverage. He has zero leverage.
None of them do, right?
So that's what I'm saying. So he is happy to get this
but
contract.
I'm saying the fact that he's the only one, like even running backs that got deals right now have been coming out speaking up. Derrick Henry spoke up. C-Mac spoke up.
It's easy to speak up when you got the money.
Right, I'm
Like,
saying
I got paid,
everybody's speaking up. Like the ones that don't get the money and the ones that got the money.
Yeah.
But Pollard's just been like, don't look at me over here. I'm chilling.
Okay, so are you concerned that any of them are going to sit out, a holdout?
I don't know, man.
Okay, are you drafting any of them?
Yes.
Are you drafting them at their ADP?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because there's no reason to.
Yeah, there's no reason to. They're falling right now.
What I do is like, I just move them to like the next tier in hopes of getting value.
Yeah.
Like, there's
because
no
if they
point.
come back, you won.
Yeah.
If they come
Yeah.
back, you. My thing is, see, my head is telling me there's no way they can hold out any, and it's not really a true holdout.
Yeah.
It's just not signing your deal and
not
showing
signing.
up.
They mad.
Yeah,
They mad,
There's
man.
no way because every game they miss, they're losing money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like hustling backwards. Like you're fighting for more money, but if you miss, you're taking away money, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. Again, they can't negotiate a long-term deal anymore, anyways.
So let me ask you this. Josh Jacobs has pretty much been going in the 3rd round in FFPC.
Yeah.
Per ADP. If he signs, does his ADP rise?
Yes.
To where?
Back into the 2nd.
So right now he's a value in the 3rd, which is where he's been going.
It's a slight value.
So do you take him in the 3rd? But to me, it's a major value because he's moving from one tier where like people would probably put him in that Derrick Henry tier
I'm talking
to
about,
like a tier with like T. Higgins.
I'm talking about draft-wise, it's a mild tier because
But to me, that's why I said ADP does not matter. Because it's the difference between, like, you're on the clock right now. People are looking at, do I take T. Higgins or do I take Josh Jacobs? If Josh Jacobs signs, does that change your vantage point of, like, what, how much Josh Jacobs is going to produce versus how much T. Higgins is going to produce? Because we've seen Josh Jacobs be, like, literally the number 1 overall running back.
Well, I think
330 points,
all the way up
30
to
plus
this.
points.
I think up
that
to
is
this
very
point,
different than T. Higgins, who people are, like, literally taking neck and neck right now.
I think up to this point, people have been drafting Jacobs with the assumption he is going to show up. I don't think his value right now is tied to him potentially missing any games.
Okay, so you just think people think it's a fluke of what he did
I
last
don't
year?
know. I don't even think people see it as a fluke. I just think people they have this mental block when it comes to Jacobs.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and we talked about it a few weeks back.
He went in the 6th round last year.
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks back. Like the guy that led the league in rushing right year, typically the next year he's going to be a 1st round pick.
Yeah.
He has not even. He barely is getting the 2nd round right now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's
This is such an important discussion here because either A, you don't feel like Jacobs is going to repeat.
right.
Okay, and if you don't feel like he's going to repeat,
Me personally, or just the
no, I'm
general
just saying
consensus?
in general. Either you fall into the camp like what Jacob did last year is not repeatable, not even anywhere near repeatable. Because even if he has a regression and produces how many? Look up how many.
He was a third.
FFPC.
He was a third.
I want to say it was like 330 fantasy points. Say he regresses,
Yeah.
and now he only scores 300. That's still
No,
RB1.
it's still very good.
That's still 1st round. So you're saying that like he's going to significantly drop off, where they haven't added anybody.
Right.
Their head coach is under fire. You think their head coach wants to rely on Zamir White? They got a new quarterback who came in who's not mobile whatsoever,
Right.
and who doesn't, per all accounts, really have a deep arm to really extend the field.
Right. No, I don't.
So either you think he's not going to repeat and that he's not good, or that he's like nowhere near that, or you're concerned that he may hold out, or you feel like he's a value. Because if he's a value at in the 3rd round, you should be smashing that every single time.
Right. I think Jacobs is going where he's going consistently because, and I guess this is cliche, but because that's where he's going, right? And by that I mean, when you go into the draft, even if you feel like Jacobs will repeat exactly the same thing he did last year, end up being the number 3 running back in fantasy this year, you still are not going to take him in the back end of the first or the early second. You're still going to take him where you've seen him going because that's where he goes.
This is why it is a mistake. This is why I'm telling you ADP right now in 2023 is worthless.
But it's the way of the land. It's the way of the land.
Okay, so you can go the way of the land or you can zag. You can go the way of the land and have a board like everybody else, or you can zag.
But again, if you believe Jacobs is gonna duplicate his performance, and you feel like his true value is the back end of the first, I don't think you're going to take him in the back.
But if you don't take him in the back end of the first, guess what? You're likely not going to get him.
No, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have said, if you feel like Jacobs is the number 2 running back in fantasy, so say you have him value right after C-Mac.
Yeah.
So if ADP was non-existent, you would probably say Jacobs should be like 106, right? But you've been seeing these drafts going on. You've seen him going in the 3rd, you know, and you've seen him going 307, 308.
Yeah.
Even if you think that about Jacobs, you're not going to take him in the first, nor the second. You're going to wait to take him in the 3rd.
And I'm telling you, that's a mistake.
Yeah, of course. It might be, but that's just the way of the land. That's just what, that's like, I mean, that's just common for what's happening.
Like, if you're like, you know, you look at his ADP and say his ADP is like, you know.
See, right here, what is this, 307?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't take him in the first. You would probably say, okay.
No, I'm not saying, I'm not advocating taking him in the first round.
And
what I'm saying is like, what I'm saying, you saw T. Higgins went ahead of Josh Jacobs. So the person taking T. Higgins ahead of Josh Jacobs, again, do you feel like Jacobs is a fraud and that he's a trap play? Are you worried about his contract? Or do you feel like, you know, if he signs that he's going to repeat?
You mean the Higgins owner?
Yeah, because to me, there's no world where like.
But the Higgins owner might just not be wanting a running back. They might have wanted a wide receiver right there.
That doesn't make sense.
But that's kind of what it looks like.
That's what. Look at the way they drafted.
And that to me doesn't make a lot of sense.
But I mean, everybody drafts differently, right? Some people go into drafts thinking, I don't want to run back. Like somebody commented on your draft where you had like 4 running backs in the first.
But this is what I'm saying. I don't understand that. It's one thing if the running back and the wide receiver are comparable in terms of like, okay, these guys are going to produce about the same amount. But if one is literally going to outscore the other by 100 points, you know, say Josh Jacobs did what he did last year and T. Higgins does what he's like average doing this year, 220 points versus 320 points.
At some point it gets real.
Like, that's not, that to me, injury risk be damned.
But at some point it gets real nuanced, right? Because somebody can say, and I'm not saying this is what that owner was saying.
Yeah.
Somebody can say, yeah, Jacobs is going to clear Higgins here, but I can probably get somebody later that can give me maybe 75% Jacobs, while I can't get somebody later that can even give me 50% Higgins. And again, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that might be something they might be thinking.
Yeah, but I would say like that's a.
And
to me,
I'm
that's
saying
like
that because right now we've seen these boards lately. People are leaning more wide receiver this year compared to every other year that I can remember.
Oh yeah, I think there's a wide receiver dead zone.
Yeah,
I mean I said this 2 years ago. Wide receiver dead zone.
And is it growing?
We said it 2 years ago.
So if there's a true wide receiver dead zone, the guy that just took Higgins, if there's true wide receiver dead zone, the guy that just took Higgins is probably saying, you know what, I don't want to get myself in a situation where I have to pick one of these wide receiver dead zone guys. Let me get Higgins now, and then let me get another running back later.
But I'm saying like you got if you took Higgins over Jacobs, you got to be in the camp of I don't believe Josh Jacobs is going to come anywhere near to repeating, because if you're not in that camp. To me, that makes no sense. That's too much of
think about it the way you think about
a 75, 100 point swing. Like, I don't care. I'm not giving up 100 points. I don't care what happens later in the draft. I'm not giving up 100 points, you know, between, one pick from the other.
But I don't have to necessarily give up 100 points between just 1-to-1. If I take Higgins right now, and if I can get a Joe Mixon coming back around, and if he didn't take
that's still
Kittle,
not 100 points.
But like what I'm saying is.
That's still you're still at 100% deficit, 100 point.
No, what Chris is saying, if Joe Mixon is compared to Josh Jacobs,
he's not
you
though.
Get him.
He's not.
We don't know
No,
that.
we don't know
But
that.
you're saying you don't know. But what I'm saying is,
is-
if I'm saying for this exercise only, if we just take last year's numbers for this exercise only, we just take last year's, because again, we're assuming that like either if he doesn't think Josh Jacobs is going to do it, this point is irrelevant.
Right, and I think-
and that's fine. But I'm saying if you believe that like Josh Jacobs is not going to have a major fall off, and you're just concerned, or you're just concerned.
If people truly believe what you're saying right there, most likely they're not doing what the Higgins owner did. And I think that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
People probably don't think Jacobs is going to produce the same thing he did last year.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
If you look at it compared to his previous season, last year was his outlier season.
But last year was the first season in that offense, and not really much has changed in that offense.
You can reason it out however way you want to reason it, but at the end of the day,
that's a significant. If you're
but-
asking me
but
like
what
why
I'm
he
saying
never
is-
did it,
but I'm not asking you why. It's not a why or why
It is
not.
a why thing.
No. I'm not asking you why. What I'm saying is it was just an outlier. It was something he never done before. So not everybody's gonna look at that and be
but
like,
you can't ignore.
I just feel comfortable.
But you can't ignore the why. That's like why. This is why Tony Pollard is going.
But you can say a why about every single player.
That's a major why. Like it's the whole reason that Tony Pollard's going in the second. Why?
That's subjective.
Tony Pollard this is not subjective. Tony Pollard was never going in the second round because Zeke was there and Zeke was healthy and Zeke was
but it
beautiful.
doesn't matter if a drafter is looking at Jacob and saying he had an outlier season, regardless of the why, he could say, you know what, I don't believe a one-off is something that he's going to repeat, so let me go with somebody I trust more. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody believes in Jacobs the way you're saying they believe in him, they're not going to pass him up.
I'm not saying believe in him. What I'm saying is, again, and I said this, like if you feel like he's not going to produce, you have your reasons, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm saying,
so
but
if
what
you
I'm
do,
talking,
but if you do believe he is going to produce the same way, then you believe in him.
I'm talking to the other two. I'm talking to B and C. I'm talking to the person who either feels like they're concerned about the holdout, or the person who feels like he can come close to his last year's numbers. Like you shouldn't be waiting until like to get a value in the third. You literally should be smashing them in the second.
So that C option, that
C
person.
or B.
I'm talking about specifically the C.
Yeah.
This person that believes he is going to reproduce, because the B option you said is a holdout. So that changes. He can't produce if he holds out.
Well, no, the B option is you're concerned about a holdout.
Okay, well, whatever. Well, concern, and it plays out that way, right? So the C option, if they believe he's going to produce the same way, they're not going to skip Jacobs unless they feel like he's going to come back around for them the next round.
Or
That's
they just
the only
believe
time.
that there are other running backs who can get closer to Jacobs than there are receivers.
Or they believe somebody
who
later can produce just like Jacobs.
Yeah, like
330 points? I don't know.
But
I feel like
was
if that were the case, I would want to get that running back too. Because there's not wide receivers that are producing 300 points.
Everybody's philosophy in drafting is different, right? There's some people that just don't feel comfortable taking a running back.
There may be one, maybe one.
But
Yeah,
there's
but
some
look at
people.
the Austin Eckler guy who gets Austin Eckler and then he gets Saquon. He has no reason to get Josh Jacobs like after that. I mean,
Yes, he does.
But
in FFPC, you can start up to 4 running backs.
But
okay,
Abby,
you can talk about
but Abby,
fragility
I'm
of the
gonna
running
keep
back.
saying it. Everybody's draft philosophy is different.
Okay.
You might think it's ideal to
That same owner
lock
took
in those
Debo
running backs.
Samuels, who's been injured plenty of times, more than Josh Jacobs. He took DeAndre Hopkins, who's been injured plenty of times. Chris Godwin, who's had an ACL. Mike Evans, who's aging. These arguments, these like arbitrary things. What I'm getting at is that like these notions are just because, like you said, this is the way of the land. We got to stop thinking of the way of the land. Because the way of the land is not correct.
But it doesn't even matter the way of the land.
It does matter. The way of the land is not correct.
You're reasoning it out a certain way. You have.
My reasoning is factual based.
See, there you go with that. Listen to what I'm saying. You have your reasons. Somebody else has their own reasons. Their reasons might not align, and it's okay. It is okay. You believe these guys are better suited to be picked here. Somebody else is looking at it like, I don't believe that guy is better suited there. They're not going to take him.
It's the logic behind it. If your logic,
it's your logic.
No. The logic, your counter argument for this particular person, or this person X, was that this person may be concerned about running backs getting hurt.
I never said that in this situation. I just said that person might not feel the logic that you're saying is their logic.
But
so they decided to draft
one of y'all's
differently.
reason was because you were worried about injury. And so that in itself is a fallacy.
But that's if I was drafting. If I was drafting, I have my reason. That's my reason.
All I can do.
We don't know what this person's reasons are.
The reasons that are presented in front of me.
But that's what I'm saying. We don't know.
Guys, we're being a good
But we don't. But what I'm saying, we don't know his reasoning. You assume his reasoning, but we don't know his reason. He might really look at Calvin Ridley and Debo and be like, "Man, they're gonna kill this year," and it's just that simple. And we can't tell them no, it's not going to happen because we can't tell the future.
I'm not necessarily saying that. That's why I laid out specifically those points. Players that fall in that.
And let's not forget. So excusing the. No, we're gonna keep going. excusing the holdout part of things, right? Excusing the holdout part of things.
640.
Before we even were concerned with holdouts, Jacobs was going around this range, back in second, early third.
Yeah.
So it was already a thing. Like, regardless of holdout entity. So everybody.
No, he's always there's always been he was like one of the first and early people to talk about like holding out or like people just viewed him as disgruntled.
But what I'm saying is,
he's always been on kind of Twitter. I hate fantasy play, So he's always kind of been like that disgruntled cat. There was always some kind of question.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is people back in May were not thinking about we weren't saying there's a risk Jacobs is going to hold, because if we were, Zamir White would have been going way higher than he's been going. And Zamir White has been going at the very end of drafts, every single draft.
Yeah.
And there's nobody else there. Like, it's not even a situation where we're looking at the Raiders and like, man, it might be this player or it might be that player. We know the backup is Zamir White, and he's still going. Now, I'll tell you this. Now that the holdout is a real threat.
I don't think the backup will be Zamir White.
Right, but now that the holdout is a real threat, I guarantee Zamir White is going to start creeping up.
I mean, really, what you should be creeping up is Kareem Hunt, Zeke Elliott, and Leonard Fournette over Zamir White.
So one more thing before we end, because I know we're putting him in the title as well. Barkley, I think he might hold. I don't know, man.
Man, he sounds
that
like
video.
He sounds for real.
He's not holding out. He's not holding out.
My.
He literally has no leverage, because if he holds out, he doesn't get the accrued a year.
Right.
So
no, I don't think any of these guys are going to hold out. I think they're going to just miss the amount of games.
They're not going to miss. There's no advantage.
If they threaten to do it.
But there's no advantage to them missing games. There's no advantage.
They can accrue the season.
No, if you miss games, you miss paychecks.
Right.
So you're already upset about not getting paid.
That's the only risk.
It's not a risk. You're going to miss paychecks.
No, what I'm saying is
there's no advantage to doing it.
Okay, let me not say risk. That's the only concern for them.
But why would they do that? To prove a point?
Yes.
And what does that lead to?
Didn't you just say they're willing to be the person that puts that burden on their back?
No.
That's what they're saying.
No. He literally, if you heard him also, he said, I got to make the best decision for my family.
And he said he's going to talk to his family. He said he's going to talk to his team.
The best decision for his family is not to leaving $1 million checks on the table.
If that was so a certainty, then why would he even be saying what he's saying?
Because he's upset. The dude's in his feelings, and I would be too. I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed.
But what I'm saying, what I'm saying is,
Duncan Robinson, man.
But what I'm saying is,
guaranteed.
But what I'm saying is, if it's that simple cut, right? If it was that clean cut, that simple of a thought process, they wouldn't even be saying what they're doing. They would just be like, all right, look, it is what it is.
Nah, I think it is that simple.
But they're all talking like.
It is that simple. They're upset. They're frustrated. They're angry. This is what people do. I would be doing the same thing. I would literally be doing the same thing. I would have multiple burner accounts. I'd be saying, put this out there. Put this out. Hey, let's do a podcast.
You would be saying, I might miss.
I'd be pissed because I know that. I know that. I got that contract.
Listen
I
what
can
I'm
sign
saying.
anytime.
You would be saying, there's a chance I'm going to miss games.
I would say a bunch of stuff. I would say whatever.
But why would you say that?
Because I'm upset.
But being upset,
let it out.
But being upset is not going to change anything. Like, there's nothing that can happen.
Holding out. Noah's holding out. That's my point.
There is hold out. What I'm saying is they can hold out and then start to play at a certain point in the season, accrue that season, and then next year start over again.
They don't accomplish anything from that. They don't accomplish it.
They're threatening the team. They're basically saying, look, I'm not going to play for you if you franchise tag me. So next year,
then they don't sign him next year. That's the whole reason. They don't sign him next year. The team moves on and they get whatever running back.
That's what they want. Then they're happy.
Yeah.
So then they end up in this market where even Dalvin Cook can't get a contract.
If that happens, they won. They did what they accomplished to do.
They did not win. They lost a lot of money.
No,
they did not win.
That's what Le'Veon Bell did. You know that, right?
That was that market. How many people
you had to actually hurt the current market?
No,
exactly. And now you're in a market. And now you're in a market.
What I'm saying is, it played out the exact same way.
It did.
We have Dalvin Cook, who is available right now, who has not been signed. We have multiple running backs who are available right now who's not been signed. We have all these teams who are telling people they do not want to sign running backs to contracts. What happened with Le'Veon Bell is irrelevant because that's not the market.
But it's not irrelevant because
this is the market.
Because they are threatening doing it now.
They can threaten doing it. And then they lose a year of their. They use a year of their NFL life. They're a year older. They've lost a couple million dollars.
They're not going to lose a year because they're still playing this year.
No, they use a little. You go from being 27 to being 28.
No, you're not listening to what I'm saying. They're still playing this year. They just have to play.
I'm not talking about the year they accrue. I'm talking about they use you're a running back. You have a certain lifespan. You sitting out a year is not good for your career.
You're not listen what I'm saying. Listen what I'm saying.
I know about
they're
the
not
crew.
sitting out this year.
I know that.
So they're playing this season regardless.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that if they sit out however many games they can sit out, they are losing game checks. That is part. They have a certain license.
But again, that's the only risk, and they've already.
It's not a risk. You're losing money.
Okay, that's the only
concern.
concern.
If your main issue is I'm not getting paid, but you're losing money.
Listen to what I'm saying. Golly, they've already taken that into account. The only problem with all this is them possibly losing check. So if they're saying this, they're saying it with the mindset of already knowing I'm going to lose checks, and I'm still making this threat. That's what they're doing, and they're still okay with it.
I disagree.
You disagree on what? They're saying it.
All right, guys. This first and 15th, fifth quarter. Please like, rate, subscribe.
Austin Eckler said it. I'm sure Joe Mixon was saying it. They still bent the knee.